All right, check. What's up, everybody? Um, okay, so I'm gonna do this video now. Basically, I've been looking at the stuff going on with Charlie Kirk, and rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, and hope his family's all right and everything. But I didn't really watch too much of his content, but I've just been looking at some of the arguments, basically some of the left wing arguments too and stuff, and just trying to see why people feel the way they do about what's going on. And so basically I think that one of the more, you know, non rage baity people that have responded to this is Taylor Lorenz. So a lot of the arguments I'm going to be responding to are based off of her recent video. But I've just been thinking about the whole thing in any sense, and like, what other people think about it, and it's just a horrible thing to happen. So you can see the title of this video is kind of clickbaity or whatever, because I mean obviously like violence is a thing that exists, but in a political sense it doesn't. Like in a judicial sense it doesn't. There's really only you attacking people or you defending yourself from people. There's no such thing as just amorphous violence. It's either you're doing violence, quote unquote, in a just way, defending people, or you're doing it in an unjust way and you're attacking people, you know. But there's no such thing as just violence, you know. It doesn't. It's out of context when you just use the word in that sense to evoke an emotional response from people. That's what it is. It's just you're just using that word because you know that most people automatically, when they hear the word violence, say, "Oh, that's bad." Of course, it's bad. People getting hurt is always bad. You know, in most cases, I mean it. And of course, people are like heinous criminals and stuff like that. Whatever. But and I'm just talking in general. It's bad. You know. So basically, the left behind the kooky, crazy, stupid people on TikTok celebrating anyone dying that's like really not that bad of a person, but was actually a good person. We can get into definitions later, but behind that there's a logic behind it, and the logic is that basically this was a preemptive attack because the left themselves are under threat, and then their claims of them being under threat are that people having self-defense rights is a threat to them. And this is probably one of their weakest arguments because, as the side that's letting out 14-time violent offenders, when a man with a wife and kids says that he wants to own a self-defense tool in order to defend his family, like people can clearly see like one person is sane and the other person isn't. You're saying, like, the left is saying, oh, you shouldn't be able to own any self-defense tools, but at the same time you should also allow us to let out 14-time violent criminals. Like, seriously. And then you're trying to use an emotional plea to take away people's right to defend themselves. Right? So you're saying that Charlie Kirk and people like him advocating for the Second Amendment, people like me advocating for the Second Amendment, is an attack, a physical attack on you, a threat, even a threat to you. Someone claiming that they want to defend themselves is now a threat. And then you can see how just a normal person is just like, I can't accept that. I can't accept that someone that's saying that you letting out a 14-time violent offender is worse than you saying that Someone should be able to have the right to defend themselves in their home or when they're out doing their job, their lawful job. It's just like most people are not going to see the logic behind that. So then you just have to give the amorphous, well, everything is violence. Like when I take a sip of water, it's violence because that sip of water could have gone to someone else that needed it. I mean, it sounds absurd, but it's the truth, right? Like somebody else needs a sip of water, and someone's like trapped or lost in the desert right now. They need a sip of water. If I take a sip of water, I mean, but how can I deliver that water to them? So am I supposed to feel guilty now that I'm not like showering people in the desert with water, with my water that I have just not that much of? But excuse me. That's kind of besides the point. But the you see where I'm going with it. It's like an absurd logical claim to claim that someone wanting to defend themselves is now a threat to you. All right. So we're just going to look real quick at the actual definition of when a preemptive attack is justified. And this is coming from the like UN international law. So it should be considered like the highest level of law when you're talking about when is a preemptive strike justified. Okay, so this part here on the customary international law and Caroline test. The traditional customary rules on preemptive self-defense derive from an early diplomatic incident between the United States and the United Kingdom over the killing of U.S. citizen, a black American watchmaker named Amos Dufresne, who was on board a ship, the Caroline, which was docked in the U.S., but which had been carrying personnel and stores of war to rebels in Canada, then a British colony. The U.S. government had not approved or supported the Caroline's activities, and the ship was peacefully at anchor in the U.S. when British forces attacked, burned the ship, and sent it over Niagara Falls. The so-called Caroline case established that in order for one state to use force in the territory of another state which had not used force first, there had to exist a necessity of self-defense, instant, overwhelming, leaving no choice of means and no moment of deliberation. And furthermore, that any action taken must be proportional. So we can just kind of pause there for a second and just ask the question, if Charlie Kirk was talking, what would be the proportional response to someone talking and debating? It would probably be talking and debating. Since the act justified by the necessity of self-defense must be limited by that necessity and kept clearly within it. These statements by the U.S. Secretary of State to the British authorities are accepted as an accurate description of the customary right of preemptive or anticipatory self-defense. They are sometimes mistakenly said to apply to all uses of force by states in self-defense. See, mistakenly. It doesn't just mean that if you're going against another state, that you can just claim 24/7, oh, we're under attack. We're under attack because they exist. They exist, so we're under attack. It's like I'm drinking water, so I'm attacking someone that lives in the desert. It's an absurd. It's too absurd. It's not within like reason. Like, yes, you can make the claim. You can make the claim that there's somebody that needs water. A plant could use my water right now. So I'm taking water away from a plant that could be using my water. But most reasonable people would say that that is insane. Of course, you get your water and then you drink your water, and then plants get the water from outside in the rain. Right. Okay. So further, it's going to just talk about what is an imminent threat. Imminent threat is a standard criterion in international law developed by Daniel Webster as he litigated the Caroline affair. An imminent threat is instant, overwhelming, and leaving no choice of means and no moment for deliberation. This criterion is used in the international law justification of preemptive self-defense. Self-defense without being physically attacked first. This concept has been used to mitigate the lack of definition provided by Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, which states that sovereign nations may fend off an armed attack until the Security Council has adopted measures under Chapter 7 of the United Nations. The Caroline affair has been used to establish the principle of anticipatory self-defense and is also now invoked frequently in the course of dispute around preemptive strike. So, I mean, you can read the rest of that stuff and go through all the things and check and see if it's right or whatever. But, I mean, it sounds about right to me, you know, that when you're claiming, because that's what you guys are claiming, all you left-wing people, you're claiming that this was basically a preemptive attack on the entire quote-unquote right-wing establishment, which nobody even knows what that is, because the government is just the government. The government's a government. There's no like right-wing and left-wing United States government. There's just one government. But you're claiming that people are trying to attack you and physically harm you, and that's why you are justified to physically attack them before they actually physically do anything to you, right? And your claim is that because Charlie Kirk was advocating for his right to defend himself and his family from 14-time violent offenders that get released from jail, and possibly even the fact that he made the claim that certain groups of people commit more crime than other groups of people, which is a factual claim. Now, we can get into why it happens. Sure. You know, I'd like to know too. But to make the claim that it's not a factual claim, and so therefore that if someone can be assassinated for making a factual claim, you can understand why all people on the right are getting very nervous and very, like, you know, I don't want to say trigger, like, happy, but, you know, they're definitely keeping their head on a swivel, because this is insane. You're claiming that the ordinary course of politics that's been going on for the last like 300 almost years in the United States or whatever, that there's a government, and the government has an enforcement arm, which is like the military and the police, is now an imminent threat to your life, that you have no other way or choice or means of like stopping them from physically harming you, and they're doing it right now. Because that's the international criteria for doing a preemptive strike on an enemy state or an alternative state that's not your state. So that's what you're claiming. That's the only claim that you can make, is that this was a preemptive strike, because if you're just attacking people, then you're actually in the wrong. If you're attacking them, you're in the wrong. So you're claiming that it's preemptive self-defense. They're going to make laws that are in the future going to harm people. Now you have to clearly define how these things are going to harm people. First of all, that has to be the first thing. Like, you have to clearly and objectively be able to define how someone not recognizing a trans person's like changed identity is actually physically causing them harm. Now, yeah, if someone is physically causing harm to a trans person, that I'm right there with you. That's horrible. But but someone saying that they don't believe that a man can become a woman is not a physical attack on you. It's not. It's just not. It's not a physical attack. Right? And they're not, no one's saying that they want to physically attack trans people. All they're saying is that they do not believe that a man can become a woman, that a woman can become a man in reality. And that they're allowed to believe that. They are. They're allowed to believe that because it's scientifically backed up just as much as your view is backed up by whatever scientist that you have, right? And there's no like meeting in the middle, right? You believe one thing, they believe the other thing, but the thing is they're not physically attacking you. No one's physically attacking you. And yeah, okay, if someone says you can't go into the women's bathroom because you used to be a guy, well, I mean, then you have to balance with the women that are saying that they feel like that's a preemptive attack, right? Because there's a lot of women that are saying, hey, a guy coming in, maybe he's not physically attacking us, but he could physically attack us. And they almost have a better claim since that, women on average, it would be harder for a woman to defend themselves against the average man, the average woman against the average man. But then when you're talking about like a society-wide governmental thing, and you're talking about, oh, they're passing laws that hurt. Yes, they do. I mean, I've been in trouble with the law and stuff, and it sucks. And it's like the cops have guns, and they just tell you what to do, and then they put you in a cage. It sucks. Trust me, it sucks. You don't do it. But it's like, it's like, were they like doing anything that was unjustified? Not really. I mean, they're justified to because everybody else was like, we want this law, right? So I can't just like drive around shooting police because everybody else wants a certain law in the area, right? Oh, well, you could have arrested me, so now I gotta attack you first. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's a line where you have to like, we all have to like live together, basically, and to claim that someone like that's what I'm saying. Like Charlie Kirk, he believed in self-defense. He's not talking about attacking anyone. He's just like, okay, I want to be able to defend my family. If one of these 14-time violent offenders gets released from prison for the 15th time, and he just decides, oh, hey, I like this guy's car. Oh, I like this. Let's see what's inside. You see what I'm saying? There's a complete difference than what you're trying to like paint this picture. Oh, well, he doesn't like guns, or he wants people to have guns, so there that's like the most nonsense non sequitur argument ever. Right? It's like saying, oh, I don't like sharks, so therefore we should kill all the sharks in the ocean. Like, no one's saying that. No one's saying that. They're just saying, I want to defend myself. I want to defend myself doesn't mean I want people to go out and harm other people. It just doesn't mean the same thing. It's not the same thing. It doesn't mean the same thing. Trying to pretend like it means the same thing really makes you look super dishonest. And then using words like out of context, like violence. They're just doing violence. Yeah, okay, we're all doing violence. I'm breathing in air that somebody else could be breathing, right? Plants could be. Well, plants don't breathe air, but I'm drinking the water that plants could be using, right? So it's like, okay, there is some level of externalities to existence, and we try to like work within those lines, But there's a reality, and then there's like a society. And I think society right now is very permissive. I mean, if you look at Charlie Kirk versus somebody, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 100 years ago, a conservative, a Christian conservative. I mean, they're very, amicable to liberal causes. They just want to also defend their views. They're not no they're not attacking anyone. They're defending, and that's why they keep winning, and because they're in the just position, and just trying to make up like fake things, like saying, "Oh, it's a society is a preemptive attack on me." I mean, yeah, it is. On all of us. It is. The people that were like born 200 years ago, they like own everything, and we all have to work for them. It sucks. Right? And they're like children's children. We'll have to work, for them. And then your children will work for their children, right? It's obvious. You can see that. You can see that, but it doesn't mean that it gives you a justification to attack everyone in society. Just because part of society is that in certain limited instances, you know, people agree that the use of force is necessary to defend other people in the society that are not doing anything unjust. And that's pretty much it. So it's like you claiming that someone has something that you want, and that therefore you are now justified to attack them, is the same logic as a thief. Just, oh, they have what I want and I don't have it, but I have the ability to take it from them. And then you're going to claim that it's like you're like justified in doing so because there's an overarching violence to society, right? It's like, just use the words correctly. Like if you want to say, okay, we're preemptively taking down the Republican Party before they get in office and vote for all these laws that are going to limit our like civil liberties, basically, because no one's taking away the rights. It's like a civil liberty to dress up like a woman and then tell everybody at your job that you have to now act like this person's a woman when they're like bigger than you. And they used to be like a Air Force like engineer or something like that, and you're like, okay, I mean, no disrespect, but it's just like, I don't really know what to say to that. It's kind of like, okay, I don't want to disrespect anyone. That's just kind of my thing. But at the same time, I can see how someone else is just like, look, I'm not playing that game. Like, this is reality. This is what reality is. I'm gonna say what reality is, and like they're well within their rights to say what reality is. People saying what reality is not a threat, a physical threat to your existence. It's just not. If someone says that, oh, this group commits more crime than that group, then instead of saying, oh no, you're a white supremacist, instead just, okay, well, why? Why does this group, if you accept it and meet them halfway and say, okay, I see your statistics that you have. Okay, so let's talk about why these groups commit more crime than other groups. And if the only answer is, oh, my white supremacy, like, then you can see how someone would then respond negatively to you, because they're actually, even though they're pointing out something that's bad, I think that like someone like Charlie Kirk was doing it in good faith, that he wants to solve the problem. He wasn't just pointing out the problem to rub it in your face and say, oh, look, white people are rich and black people are poor, and white people commit less crimes. And like, I think he truly did want to like get to the bottom of it, and his, conception of the bottom of it was probably like everybody being, like Christian, or at least like following some type of moral system, and married and trying to have kids within the marriage, and that type of stuff. So that's basically like, if that is now an evil Nazi that deserves to be shot on sight because they're basically threatening the next Holocaust, and it's like, you just like targeted probably more than half of the country, because there's a lot of people that have families and kids, and other people that have like know people that have families and kids and stuff like that. And they're like, what? Well, oh, now being like a father and like a parent is like is Nazis? Is like you're a Nazi? I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't even know what else to say about it really, because it's that ridiculous. Like we can see here that this is like your only, if you're a left winger, this is your only justification that it was a preemptive attack, and it's so flimsy. It's such a flimsy like case or claim to be made, because like you really can't justify any of those claims. Oh, gun control. Well, come on, for real. The guy's self-defense and attacking people for no reason are two completely separate things, right? You know, wanting to ban abortion. Women, I thought women had free will. They could just choose not to have unprotected sex or have sex outside of marriage, right? Women can choose that. Women could literally eliminate abortions tomorrow by just never having sex with guys that they weren't in basically married to, right? But him saying that makes him a Nazi, right? That deserves to be killed. Like, seriously, it's ridiculous. It's like, what are we even doing here anymore? You know, it's like, that's why everyone's like, either people are getting like super pissed off or they just don't care. Like me, I'm trying to care. Like, I'm really trying. Because I'm like, it's so ridiculous. Like, come on. Like, really. I'm just rambling now because I don't even know what to talk about, because it's just that, like, there's no, how do you conclude something like that? It's like, look, it's like, it's that simple, right? You're claiming that this is a preemptive strike because basically his way of life is a threat to your existence, a physical threat to your existence. And that's just like such a flimsy argument at this point. I went through all the points already, and that's it. You know, we all want to live here together. I think Charlie Kirk was definitely in good faith arguments and wanted the best for the country. And that's about it for this video. I don't know what else to say. Have a good day and be well.